Welcome to the meeting. I'd like to, and also, the meeting's got a little rescheduled this month, in part because of me. I wasn't the only reason, but thank you. What'd you say? Okay, I'd like a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting. Second, okay.
I'm going to note there are no public speakers signed
Oh,
up.
I'm sorry. Thank you. There are no changes to the work plan to report. Sorry, Jeff. Okay. No worries. Now, Michael will do his thing with the project status reports.
Okay, although it was kind of a short month, only 3 weeks ago. I'm sorry. Although it was a short month 3 weeks ago, we have made quite a bit of progress on all our projects, and I'll provide you with a brief update. Let's start with the Fulton Street Transit Center. The foundation, I don't know to what extent you can see it here. Can you guys get this lights in the back here dimmer? I don't know if it's possible, but anyway, it's the contractor really placed the concrete slab for the transit center foundation, and the shotcreting waterproofing of the concourse level has also begun, and it's really moving. You guys turned off the lights in the wrong spot. Anyway, so it's proceeding, and I just wanted you to get a sense of where we are. The first construction barriers for the AC mezzanine, this is the longest project it will have, were installed in the station in October, and surveying, the existing structure has started, so we are kind of readying ourselves for actual construction. The 405 station rehab contractor has begun pre-construction activity and will be fully mobilized at the site in December. I think you can see it better and you get a sense. This will be steps here, by the way, whatever you see there. But that's really, it's taking shape, and it's interesting to see. You don't have to do much. We have almost like a balcony that can be viewed, so it's kind of nice to see it. The transit center building contract package is scheduled to be completed in mid-January with the goal of awarding the contract ahead of schedule no later than the summer of 2010. And let's have a look at the contract schedule so you can get a sense. Can you go to the next? That's it. What we have is what I presented to you last time around, and you see the projection and the actuals, and we are slightly ahead of schedule on all of them. And now the restoration of the Corbin building, we are supposed to be in March. We're going to be about a month early. And the Day Street Concourse, we're going to be also in February instead of September, so we are ahead of schedule in awarding that. As far as the Transit Center building, we look for a January 2011, and we expect to do it probably May, June of 2010. So again, we'll be about 6 months ahead of schedule in awarding it. The idea was to capture the good pricing that is now on the market, so we can take advantage of that. And the RW northbound, we expect to, by the way, open it this year. We'll come back with an exact date as to when we are, but it's advanced, and it's really, it looks good. Actually, we have a picture here of, and this is, it's hard to tell, but the flooring are done, the walls are done. They're now doing some system work to just make sure that it's going to be operational, and we're doing also stuff to make it more pleasant, because the other side will be constructed in the future. So we want to make sure that at least the experience on the northbound platform will be the right experience, rather than looking at a shabby other side where it's really under construction. The number 7 line extension, we reached a significant milestone on October 30th with the first TBM breaking through the southern wall of the 34th Street. What you see there is the contour as they're breaking through. Go to the next. Now the TBM has gone through.
Isn't that cool?
And then the TBM was now going to be walked through the cavern. We expect sometime in December to break with a second TBM, and potentially we may want to have at that time an opportunity for you to see that as it happens. The excavation and underpinning continues on the lower level of the 8th Avenue subway and the existing tail tracks at Times Square, and the restoration of 11th Avenue, where the ground freeze equipment was located, is now complete, so 11th Avenue is now open. So there's not much more to report on that. 2nd Avenue subway, you can turn the lights on. Another significant step forward this month is that we start blasting in the launching box area. The test blasts were successfully conducted on November 4th, and the DOB, the Department of Buildings, and the Fire Department has given us their approval to continue with the program, which will take approximately 2 months to complete. We are about 2 to 2.5 weeks ahead of schedule there in terms of where we were projecting, and we feel good about it, feel lucky, actually. The work is now underway for the scheduled demolition of the Century Lumber Yard this month, and we are doing an industry outreach meeting. It was done October for the 72nd Street cavern mining and heavy civil structural contract, and over 30 firms attended it. We like that. It means we're going to have good competition. Also, I'm pleased to report that the Federal Transit Administration issued a finding of no significant impact on the environmental assessment for the proposed design changes to entrances at both 72nd and 86th Street, which allow us to proceed with our final design. As far as the east side access, a kickoff meeting were held with the 44th Street demolition construction of fan plant structure and 245 Park Avenue, as well as Queens Board tunnel contractors. So they all are starting the work. I mentioned, I think last month, that we received 9 bids for the 50th Street vent facility, and Halmar was the low bidder, and it was below the engineer's estimate quite significantly. And again, that's a good thing. It's a good trend. The site of the future Long Island Road concourse below Grand Central, the ventilation shaft that is has been constructed in Medicine Yards and will connect with the caverns below. And for the moment, that will be used as a temporary elevator location, so we can transport workers up and down. And last but not least, the Norton Boulevard crossing contract will be submitted to you for your approval today, and we successfully negotiated with the joint venture $84.5 million contract. With that, I think I'm done. And we now have, I guess, a presentation on the trends and forecast of capital and administrative workloads.
Michael,
Tony?
can I ask
Yes.
you a question? Can you refresh?
No?
Procurements we normally would.
Oh, procurement? I'm sorry.
Can you just refresh my memory? When is southbound Cortland RW supposed to open? Sometime in 10, right?
No, I think is 11. Yeah, and I think is in 2011. 2011, September 2011. We're shooting for that.
How do you do it? I mean, every project except the 7 line is between 4 and 7 years, and the 7 is a little iffy late. Now, I know that this is not your fault because you've inherited these problems and you've worked heroically to straighten everything out and get everything done, and have done a great job. But, I mean, isn't it depressing every day to see that you're working on projects that are that late? How do you do it?
No, okay, it's a matter of perspective here. From my perspective, I'm not late. In fact, I've inherited what I've inherited, and we're doing the job that is necessary to bring you what we consider to be on time once we establish the timetable. There are good reasons sometimes why projects were delayed. Some of that had an historical perspective that will take a long time to brief you on. But there are good reasons, and I think that we are past the point where we needed approvals and we needed all kind of design changes. So we're now much closer to realizing the construction. There's still lots of challenges. We are dealing day in and day out with approvals from various entities, including the City of New York and including others. So that's a challenge, but that's a challenge that we're meeting. So,
All right, I'll try not to depress you then.
Don't depress me. I just came back from a week away.
Your optimism is infectious, and I think that...
Don't worry, we got a shot for that.
So don't get discouraged.
Okay, I will try not to. Thank you.
Okay. Now, regarding the procurements, there are 3 procurements, competitive items for review. One of them, Michael just touched upon. It's something that we've been working, not we, but this group has been working on for a while, and that's the East Side Access Northern Boulevard Crossing contract for $84.95 million. And actually, we'll take all these 3 together. And the other 2 are design consultant items regarding the Fulton Street Transit Project. And one is for $22.3 million, and the other is for $12.2 million. I know, Norman, it sounds like monopoly money, right?
That's exactly what it is.
I could read your mind, but it isn't. These are all good projects, as you know, a picture's worth 1,000 words, and things are moving forward, and there are positive things.
One of the items is for design with Ove Arup, the designer for Fulton, and the other is for the extension of the consultant construction manager contract with PB Bovis. So there are actually 2 separate Fulton-related items.
Oh, no, the $84 million you're talking is the Northern Boulevard crossing.
Right.
That's a soft ground tunnel on the Northern Boulevard that is quite tricky.
That's
because
not design. That's
Right.
actual.
Right.
And also, you should just know that the contracts that we are extending, such as the construction management for PB Bovis, it is a not to exceed. That means if we finish the contract earlier, we will spend less money. Because normally construction people in the field, they just have to be there during construction. So as we complete projects faster, we can pull people out faster.
Let me ask you a question. We're putting out the bids earlier, 6 months ahead of schedule. What does that do for the contractor coming in? Do they have some type of time frame in their head that they don't have to start earlier, or do they have a certain starting date? Or are they going to tell you, well, we're involved in a project that's going to take us 4 months to get to?
No, that's not acceptable. We have, once we award the contract, we give them a starting date, and then after that there's a problem if they don't start on time. So they are given the time span is when they are given the notice to proceed, and then they know in the contract it says when they're supposed to finish.
Okay, so what happens? We get an individual that bids for the contract is awarded. You're 6 months ahead of schedule. They come in at the lowest bid, but they can't start this project at all. Do you then go to the next bidder, or
I will let Ronnie, that is the specialist in this case, to answer. But
No, as Michael explained, when we bid a contract, when we issue that notice to proceed, the contractor has to begin, and they have a schedule that has generally liquidated damages that provide for delay damages payable to us in the event that they were late. So if they were in a situation where they couldn't start fast enough or had a different problem, that would be part of our vetting process before we get to that notice to proceed. But once that notice to proceed is issued, they start, and they have a schedule in the contract to complete the work.
Thank you, sister.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
I don't know if you covered this. The Fulton Street contract.
Which one?
Let's see, the consultant management, the construction consultant management.
Yeah.
This is as a result of what? This is pretty big.
we have.
It is. It's, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. We re-baseline it. Remember,
Right.
we were supposed to be done in 2009.
Right.
An original contract, and that contract was signed for that specific time span. And when we presented the new dates, we knew when we were going to finish, and therefore we have now rebaseline the contract to go for the full duration of construction.
How much does the consultant management company get involved in setting up the original estimates of how long it will take, and part of their job is to ensure that things are going on time? I don't know what they do. I'm asking a question.
If you recall, the original situation was that we had a bid in December of 2007, if I'm correct, that was twice the number of dollars that we had available, and there was only one bidder. At that point, I think that bid was thrown out, and we repackaged everything in smaller pieces to go out, and therefore we also rebaselined everything and resequencing the job.
How much involvement is this consultant, construction manager? Maybe just if they're not involved at all, that's fine. Are they involved in setting up the initial estimates, and we're involved in initial recommending one big bid package, or that's?
I will allow people that were there at the time to answer it. I don't have that history.
If I might, they were participants in setting up the original estimates for both cost and schedule for completion. And the large transit center package that Michael referred to was unprecedented in result. And so we went back to them and we said, how did this happen? Because nobody expected it. And when we went in and did forensics with the contracting team, a lot of it was markup. A lot of it was just unprecedented profit and markup built into that package, and also because they viewed it as risk because we had bundled many different types of work together.
Right.
So that was where they also participate in the development of the strategy to break it up and give us a sense of who's available in the market and ultimately manage those individual contracts.
Who determines how much money they get as a consultant on here? How does this compare to other large projects? Is it, these guys were involved. They had an initial contract of $18 million. They now just doubled their contract because, in fact, this bidding came back and you've had a rebaseline. I mean,
And
we obviously don't
right.
rebid this
Right.
work. So they've basically benefited by, an unanticipated event. I'm not going to place blame anywhere on anything, but they've benefited tremendously from this. How are their rates held in check? Are they held accountable for any of this? Doesn't sound like they were.
In this context, this was not a situation where there was a real error, like liability issue, where you would sometimes go after your
I recognize
consultant.
that.
No,
It's
no,
not,
I'm
I
saying
recognize that
that's
it's not.
not his
I recognize that. Yeah,
But the
I
rates,
get that.
how the rates are decided is through both identification of skills, labor that's required to manage the different contract packages, the amount of hours that they anticipate spending managing that, and then what the market rates are, and we negotiate them to be competitive.
Has the rate changed when we extended it by 5 years? From 09 to 14?
I don't know the specific rates and how they were impacted, but we can certainly give you a breakdown of that.
Jeff, one thing that we do have is we audit their overhead, and that is something that is truly a check that we have, as well as the whatever the profit margin that was established, I think has been maintained. We did not increase nor decrease. So there are certain pieces of the work that are very clear.
Bottom line, this is the best thing that could have happened to them.
This consultant company just got an extra $22 million.
That's,
I mean, I understand it's for work. It's not.
consultants
Right,
often
I
hope
get it.
for that. Maybe not that much, but they hope to get their foot in the door, and then invariably, maybe not to this extent, you know how it goes. A project takes on a life of its own. But this
Have
one
we
is-
considered acquiring Parkins?
They've been acquired. By the way, they've been acquired. PV was acquired by a British
They've
firm.
acquired us.
We seem to be hiring a lot of their personnel anyway.
So, yeah. But acquiring them would mean that we will have to also hold on to them after we finish the job. So.
Okay. Jeff, do you feel even remotely satisfied?
I mean, they're negotiated like any design contract is. We also have IQ consultants, people that we go through almost a job shopper to come in and work on inspections. Some that you'll see in this presentation I'll be making later on.
Okay. So what do we think? Can we move these?
Reluctantly move all the items.
Okay, we've got a protest move. Anybody second it? Norman, will you give me a second?
Second it, please.
Okay. Believe
Just
me,
monopoly.
this isn't lying in my pockets. Okay. All those in favor?
Thank you.
Okay. Now, all the committees, at least the ones I've been to today, there are new committee charters. And a copy of that has been placed in front of you. And if there are any questions, this is for both the Capital Construction and Real Estate Committee, and it hopes to achieve more transparency and better accountability. I would like to move these charters. Andrew, you want to move? Yes, I'll second. Second? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any questions, let me know. And Tony has a short presentation
Short, okay.
on the preliminary budget for next year and the July financial plan that will expand from 2010 to 2013.
Every November I come before the committee and just give a state of our own company administrative expenses. And if you go to the first slide, happy to notify you that we've been very successful with our administrative cost containment strategies. And right now we're trending with our budget level of 22.6, we're trending well below that. We should, for the period ending December 31, 2009, we should come in under about $8 million. Why is that important? That's important this year because we're at the end of our 2005 to 9 program, and since we are funded through a line item in the capital program, that capital program has not been approved by the Capital Program Review Board yet. So therefore, what's significant about the $8 million is it's going to allow us to go ahead and spend through probably the first quarter of next year, so we can still continue with our administrative expenses. Otherwise, we'd have nowhere to charge with that. So that's pretty good news. The other thing I wanted to do in this presentation is, well, we have a line item in the next capital program, and of course, if that would happen, sure, we would take a reduction on that next 5-year program.
You just said that this year you're $8 million below, which is great.
Right.
And I do understand why you will need to keep it to keep you afloat over the next quarter or so,
right,
or however long it needs, since you need the cash on hand, since we don't have a capital budget. Mm-hmm. But in next year's budget, for assuming it gets passed through CPRB, is there an $8 million reduction in your administrative budget? In that
operating budget, no, and I'll show you why in a second. In the capital program, that line item, that $8 million will be that much less we have to use in the next capital program, so that would decrease by 8. These are all capital expenses.
That part
yeah.
I got that. But I want to understand why your administrative costs are not going to be reduced going forward.
I'll show you why in about a couple more slides. And to get to that point, basically, I want to make you aware that what's going to be happening over the next 2 years, many of our mega projects are finally going to be ramping up with their construction activity. There's going to be almost an exponential increase in the amount of activity that's going to occur in the next 2 years, and I'm going to show you that. How do I demonstrate that? Well, we usually look at 3 indicators. One is the contract activity. That's basically the number and the value of the contracts that we're managing in any particular year. The next is the work in place, and that is the actual value of the payments that are going out to contractors. And the third is just our estimated contractor strength, and that's basically the number of employees that the contractors are out there doing the work have out in the field doing the actual work. And the final thing I want to talk about is just the construction management that has to manage that and inspect that activity. The core and matrix in-house employees used to do that are basically going to stay the same. We're projecting that will remain steady. However, something we were just talking about, the consultant construction managers or any kind of consultants used for inspection is probably going to grow slightly to deal with that increased demand. So go to the next slide. So this is the first one I talked about, active contracts by year. Here you can see that both the number of contracts that we're going to manage for a given year and also the dollar value, how it's going up from 2009 to 10 to 11.
How does the dollar value affect your administrative costs? I mean, the difference between processing a contract worth $1 versus $100? It's
not making a payment or processing. It's the inspection work that goes along. It's the project controls. It's the safety. It's the quality. It's the procurement activity that's going on with that. It's just 30%, 45%. It's an incredible amount of activity going on. It's basically anything doing to support the management of that work going out there. So that's active contracts by year. The next indicator on the next slide. This is the construction cash flow, the work in place, or basically the dollar value of payments paid out to the contractors. As you can see, from 9 to 10, that's going to go up about 46% and should level off about steady there into 2011. The next one is our contractor employees by project. As you can see on the slide here, the blue is that's broken out between the different mega projects. The East Side Access project is on the right. That's the blue. 7 West is the maroon. Next to it, 2nd Avenue subway is yellow, and the Lower Manhattan projects are green. Now, the Lower Manhattan projects, you can see, have a little bit of dip. That's because South Ferry finished and the Day Street underpass, and then the Fulton Street continues with that. But all the other projects, 2nd Avenue, 7 West, and East Side Access, especially East Side Access, having a vast amount of work going on, a vast number of employees that are going out there. The next slide just basically collapses that data you just saw. So if you put all that together with the contractors, you see it's about a 17% increase and then a 34% increase in the amount of contractors that are going to be out there. The next one, if we add our own employees on the bottom of that, so you take the previous slide we just saw and then put our own employees, they basically, the people inspecting, administering that are broken out into 3 different categories. The one is matrix employees. That's basically people that we borrow from the Transit Authority, Long Island Railroad. The next are our own core people. That's the approximately 150 of ourselves and MTACC. And then the CCM. These are the contractors, the consultant contractors, the consultants, people that we actually hire to come in and actually help us with the inspection and administration of the projects. So if you go to the next slide, that basically is a better representation of the slide you just saw with the line graph. And on the bottom, you can see how we're basically holding steady with the matrixed and the core, but the CCM is growing slightly over the next 2 years. Which brings us to the final slide. And this basically just shows that breakout in better terms between the matrix, the core, and the CCM. So right now, as you can see, we're about at, I would say, about 130 people right now. That's going to go up to our quota level, about 150 next year. And then hopefully we would try to keep level at that point. That's up here with the 150. And then the matrix is going to stay the same. It's really the consultants that will be growing slightly at that period. But what may have to happen over probably the next few months, we'll probably take a look at this mix because there is a cost implication to the mix of using consultants or own people. And we'll probably relook at that in March or April to see if we want to adjust these in any which way, up 10, 20, 30.
Let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
The commissioner here, Kay, raised a question about $8 million. And you said we'll see it in the slides. I'm still looking for it, and I don't see it yet. Where's the $8 million that you saved that you're going to put back in reserve somewhere or reduced your next capital budget by $8 million? Because if not, then what you're doing is not only are you putting forth a new budget, but you're taking an additional $8 million on top of that.
Basically, what I was trying to show is that the increasing construction activity, it's going to be hard-pressed to probably continue these levels at 150 people. Now, for me to go down another $8 million, which we did a lot of cost containment, we cut a lot of different places within the budget. I don't really see doing that again. It's going to be a much help when your activity in construction is increasing to such a great extent. So that's all.
No disrespect to you, but show me the slide that you were going to show us with the $8 million on it. Where's that slide at? I didn't see that one.
Well, slide 12. Can you go back to? It's basically in every single slide where you show an increase in the construction activity. So,
except the 8.
I mean,
I think you missed it. The 20. You have a budget of $22 million, right? You
in the administrative portion,
in the administrative portion,
and of our company.
A third less this year. $8 million. $8 million's a third.
Was that over the capital program, the $8 million that we saved?
Yeah, I mean it's all funded. It's all.
I'm sorry.
It's over the 75 million for the period for 05-09, but most of that did occur in this year, Michael. Though
I'm not sure I understand.
most of it we did take the.
I'm not sure I understand. How much
There's
was
a $75 million
2009.
Right.
How much was your administrative budget?
2009 was about 22.6.
How much
was
did you
administrative.
spend this year?
We're probably getting it's about 7.9 below that. So we saved, right?
So in
So-
this particular year, you
I know
saved
you-
$8 million through some cost containment mechanisms that you're
Yes.
saying are one-shots.
But it's going to move up as
We-
these projects ramp up. They're going to need more admin costs.
Jeff, I'm going to start by saying something that is very, no good deeds seem to go unpunished.
I mean,
Yeah. Trust me,
Okay.
I get it. You come up with savings one year.
So the point here is we are trying to work with cost containment and actually be very frugal as to who we hire and how many people and at what level.
And clearly you've done a good job saving $8 million
Right.
this year, and I'm wondering how come we can't continue that
And
next year.
we are looking to
Because it
continue
delayed,
that.
basically, a lot of it was delayed hiring the 136 off of the 150. Now, to not go to the 150 over next year with all we've seen,
I'd
I
like to
mean,
get a
I may
better
come to you in
understanding.
4 months and say I want to go to 170 because that makes a lot more sense money-wise.
Tony, I
But
think
just-
I
yeah,
understand
okay.
Jeff's question. We saved $8 million. So we have somewhere a pot of money that is $8 million that we saved. And in fact, going forward, we're not asking for $8 million less. That $8 million will be part of our future contingency in effect. So next year, we save this money. We are using that right now to fund ourselves for the first quarter.
That's a cash flow issue.
It's a cash flow, absolutely. But next year, we don't expect to save $8 million again because we're going to hire more people and we're going to go to the level of 150. Right now, we were staying at about 134 or something like that. So
Right.
we are saving about 16 positions.
In essence, you're saying stay at the 134.
I
and
guess I
I've
didn't
tried to-
see it. Right?
Yeah.
We did this whole presentation about the number of contracts
You are
and number of
correct.
work. It never actually showed. I don't even know what your budget was in 2007.
How about we
Okay.
cut back? We're going to come back to you with that.
I don't know what it was. I just.
Well, it was very low then, yeah. That
But
was
your
right.
show. This all goes back to 07, 8, 9, 10, 11, and nowhere did you show the
How
dollar.
about
reason for that, I'll
we
tell
get
you the
back to
reason I
you on
didn't show
that,
you.
Jeffrey?
Okay.
Can we do that?
What's the average cost of an administrator? What's the salary of an administrator?
What type of administrator?
I don't know. We have 100 and let's say 30 some people, and we spend about probably average. I would guess it's about 100,000 per person. that
Probably
we
about
have.
90-some thousand, I think.
Yeah,
High
including
90s.
overhead.
That's the average, over 136 people. Our lowest paid employee
We
is probably
include benefit,
45,000.
include all of the overhead costs that.
Increase the administration by how many people for that $8 million bucks?
He's asking, not me.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. What was the question again?
You're going to
Yeah.
increase the number of people in the administration by how many to spend the $8 million that you say you can save next year? 80 people.
Well,
Add 80 more
right now we're at 136. Our quota was 150. We did not go to 150. We tried to stay on 136. I would not.
add 80 people next year.
No, it's 136 to 150 would be where we would go.
So that should be $1.5 million. It shouldn't be $8 million.
It depends at
Well,
what level we're hiring,
yeah.
and it's not a.
Well, at any level you're hiring, you're not going to spend.
But if the
any-
job
we
is
probably
getting
not,
done
yes.
with what you have, if the job is getting done with what you have,
With that construction amount of construction activity, yes.
okay, if it's getting done,
Right.
then why do you need to spend this other $8 million to do exactly what you're doing right now? This is what I don't
We're
understand.
not going to do exactly the same thing.
So what are you going to do differently?
We are going to have much more construction to administer.
I mean,
so
these numbers
therefore
are-
we need more
are-
people. That's all.
Are
what
incredible
it means.
that are going on. To say that, you know, to save $8 million when you're spending billions of dollars worth of activity and something may go wrong, I
So
don't know
why-
if that
so I would
that's a
think-
wise decision right there.
So I would think that when you do a budget, that if you came in under and you saved $8 million, what you would do is you would go forward with your new budget, and that $8 million you wouldn't take it or nothing, you would just leave it there. And if you ran short, then you would come to the board again and say, listen, I need another $8, $10, $15 million, and here's why, as opposed to just leaving it in a pot to use as you wish. No?
You're using it. It sounds to me, and I don't know the answer. You're using the $8 million to offset growth that you would have had if you didn't have the $8 million in savings, or are you getting that growth on top of it? Let me ask you a different question, actually. In the 2011 budget, is the administrative budget the baseline higher than 2010? Or no, I'm sorry, we're doing 2010 budget, right?
It goes up by the level of inflation, basically, with that the financial plan puts out.
So your
Be
2010
22.6,
budget
it's
is a
probably
little bit
23,
higher
24,
than
yeah.
2011, assuming the baseline had the same number of employees?
It's 150, right? Today, I mean, may come to you in 3 or 4 months and say it makes sense to add 10 and use less consultants. But right now, we've been holding to 150. We stayed under it because I knew we were going to have this problem at the end of the year without a capital program review board, and I tried to save money so that we could at least continue operating until March or April of next year.
So, Mr.
But-
D,
yes,
answer
sir.
my question for me,
Okay.
brother. If you have a budget and you come in under and you've saved $8 million,
Correct.
with the public watching us, isn't it easier to put the $8 million back, go forward with your new budget? If you run over, come back to the board and say to the board, we've run short, we need some more money, as opposed to taking this savings of $8 million, putting it on top of your new budget. So if you asked for 10, now you really have 18, okay? 8 not accounted for because it was saved from last year. So we just stockpiling it as opposed to saying, no, we don't need it. If something goes wrong, we'll come back to the table and ask for it. But right now, it goes back in the kitty. Isn't that easier to do it that way? Doesn't it
No,
look...
because basically when you're trying to put a budget together, you see who you need, what you need, how many people, and you take it from there.
But you
believe me,
did without
we
it.
never spend a dime more than we want on our side here. So if there's money to be saved, it's going to be saved, whether or not we have a lower target to go to or a higher target. But basically, we look at the number of people we need to staff the jobs that are out there. The jobs are growing incredibly. I mean, the rate of growth is something we've never seen in this company.
But you did it with 136 people now. You did
Right.
it already with 100. You've proven that it could be done with 136 people.
At a much lower level.
Okay,
And the construction
so-
now is going to double.
Uh,
Yeah.
Norman?
Yes, sir.
You can see on the charts, there's a lot more that's to be done
But
in the next
but
couple
in
of years than has been done in the last couple.
Madam Chairman, I understand that wholeheartedly, but I'm just looking at the perception. The perception is you've saved $8 million. You're going to take this $8 million that you saved the public and put it on top of what you're asking for. It's perception.
No,
Okay.
no, it's not on top.
Can we agree on...
I think I could.
Yeah,
Let me just
exactly. It's less
explain
money
it
for
a little
it's
simple
money that we
manner.
save the capital program,
It's
basically.
Anthony, if
No,
you're,
we don't use
I'm
that.
done. I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah.
What? I'm good.
but Anthony, if you're pouring, to
Don't
get your attention.
Don't get angry.
He's an angry.
He's
If
going
you're-
to do it. He's going to do it.
If you're pouring 1,000 yards of concrete a day, and you've got 20 laborers doing that, and then the next day you're going to pour 2,000 yards of concrete, you're going to need more laborers. So to try to explain it in a simple manner, you're expecting to do more work, but you're going to need more laborers to do that work, to turn that work out.
But these are the inspectors and the administrators. The inspectors
Yeah,
watching
you're
that.
gonna
Right?
need more
the
people
safety
to
people,
watch
the quality people. I mean, there's all
But
kinds
you
of people
see
that are out
that
there.
for coming in the future because you know you're going to gear up. So rather than give the $8 million back, you're going to say, we're definitely going to need it. And we may need a little bit more, but let's just keep it because we know we're going to be gearing up. If we're going to gear down, give the $8 million back.
The $8
I
million,
think
you have
let
to
me,
understand it comes from the capital program. It's definitely a
Tony?
savings to the capital program.
Tony,
Yeah.
let me just propose that since this is such a hot topic, we'll come back and we'll show you the numbers so you actually see numbers rather than just...
I looked for it in the last video. I didn't see it.
Obviously you did not.
It was down in the corner.
And please don't punish us for saving $8 million.
We cool, man. We cool. Mike, we cool.
Oh, you're wearing me out.
Really.
That's it for my short presentation.
Okay, so now, I'd like to move to real estate.
To have a scotch.
Now, something in the last couple meetings, there's been quite a bit of discussions in the meetings and outside of the meetings about some leases at Grand Central Terminal, and there's been a lot of emotions, and some people thinking things are unfair, and some people thinking that we're doing things too much the way we used to be, and then some people upset that we're looking to modernize things too much and change things. So it's been contentious, to say the least. So as a result, a group of people, headed by Jeffrey Rosen, have spent a tremendous amount of time putting new guidelines together for the selection of tenants for Grand Central Terminal. And this is effective immediately, as soon as you all hopefully vote and approve it. And I didn't know, it's in the book, I don't know if anybody read it, it's 5 pages long. If anybody has any questions, you're welcome to present them. Is there anything, like major highlights of it that you want to discuss, Jeff?
Well, maybe I could just summarize very quickly.
Oh,
in case
who
anybody
else
didn't
worked
read.
on this? Because I'd like to give them the kudos.
Well, first, let me start with historical perspective, which is that I think the upshot of our review is that we don't think our process has been broken, and I want to thank Nancy Marshall and her team at Jones Lang LaSalle and Williams Jackson Ewing for their efforts to date, as well as their work in helping to support our review of the process. There are various people on the 7th floor have participated in this, in particular my boss, Linda Kleinbaum, and people from legal. And I think we're actually quite happy with the result, because we think that what it does is it lends some focus to things that we've been doing implicitly in the past, but are usefully better articulated. So I do hope you've had a chance to look at the material, but I wanted to start by stating the objective that we've articulated in the guidelines, which is to maximize revenues from the commercial space at Grand Central taken as a whole over time, while providing an appropriate mix of goods and services for commuters and other visitors, and maintaining an overall level of quality commensurate with the terminal's status as a landmark and great public space. To accomplish the last of those two objectives, that is to say the mix of goods and services and the overall level of quality, we rely principally on use restrictions and design guidelines and rules and regulations that we set forth in our request for proposals, and these guidelines require that those guidelines be set forth in some detail, they be presented to the board explicitly, and that they further the stated objective, and in particular that we are as clear as we can be about which specified uses are mandatory, and which are merely preferred, which are prohibited, which are merely disfavored. Neither the Public Authorities Accountability Act nor common sense dictate that we select the prospective tenant that provides the highest guaranteed rent for a particular space. I think a great deal of the success of the terminal over time has been a function of our ability to establish a mix of high-quality tenants, and tenants beget more tenants. I think that's an important element of not just the quality that we've established, but the economic success that we've had over time. So we recognize that economic benefit to the MTA comes in two forms: direct benefit, direct economic benefit, which in turn consists of guaranteed minimum rent and to some extent anticipated percentage rent, and then indirect economic benefit, which is a function of, as I say, the ability of prospective tenants to attract other high-quality prospective tenants and
Jeff, if that's been the history of the leasing structure for many, many years, what are the significant changes that are taking place in the new prospective guidelines? How do they differ from the existing situation?
Commissioner, I think it's a matter of focus and a requirement that when staff comes to you with recommendations that we articulate what what our assumptions are with some care. Let me give you an example. A certain amount of weight has been historically given to concept, or overall concept of the work. But what does that mean? Well, as we thought about it, what we think that means is that there's a potential for an indirect economic benefit to the MTA resulting from these synergies that we hope to foster. And so when evaluators award points to those sorts of subjective criteria, first of all, we established a parameter that we're not going to give more than 30% of an overall score to those sorts of indirect benefits.
But that didn't exist previously?
Not with this specificity. No.
Let me ask you a question. I received a letter from Sunflower Baking Corp.
Okay.
Familiar with the letter? Stating that for the most part, we all received. Oh, you all received. All right. For the most part, my question becomes: does it appear that the rules have been changed midstream on these people? Because if I'm reading it correctly, and I'm trying to interpret it as best I can, and I'm not a lawyer, they're more or less saying that they made a bid, they came in with a higher offer in the MTA, more money than anybody else. They offered $10,200 a year more than is suggested in the RFP. They did everything that they were supposed to do, and then the rules of the game were changed.
Yeah. Well, I'm reluctant to comment on pending claims. Let me say a couple of things. First, the facts, the actual facts of what bids were received are known to us and are not known to the people who are making these claims, and in fact, they were not the high bidder.
Okay, but should it be known to the board at least? What?
Well, absolutely. But what we chose to do is to withdraw the RFPs in question before a recommendation was made to the board, precisely because we had disappointed bidders sort of going in all directions. There were people who felt that there had been ambiguity as to what the permitted uses were, and then there were people who supposed that there weren't. So as I said earlier, one of the things that we want to be very careful to do here is to make sure that everyone understands the rules of the game, and that we can then open and compare the bids on that basis. I should say the proposals, not the bids.
Okay, so
as I say, we are not duty-bound to take the high bidder for any particular site.
So if you set forth the rules of the game, everything went according to plan, and you changed it at one point, is that something that the board is going to have to deal with in litigation? Can you answer that part of the question?
Well, I can tell you that that in our society, people are allowed to file lawsuits at all times. But the course of action that we selected was actually, we thought, designed to protect the agency against litigation, to make sure that we didn't act precipitously in a way that could be criticized. And
so that's your long answer of saying, yes, we are going to have litigation problems with this.
Well, there has been a suit that was filed. It was dismissed as untimely in Supreme Court, and we've been told that we haven't heard the end of it.
Given these new changes, at the same time you're asking us to approve a 10-year lease for the tennis club, which I didn't even realize existed in Grand Central Terminal. I don't know if anyone else did. There's a tennis club. I didn't know that. For another 10 years. So how? Of course I couldn't comment.
Well, let me respond to that. We announced the last time with some care that we were suspending RFPs for all the food-related spaces at Grand Central. The tennis club has been in the works for a very long time. In that particular instance, we have a high bidder that's the high qualified bidder. They're far and away the
Did we limit it just to tennis clubs, or could it be put to some other use? Was there an RFP that suggested other uses?
It was an RFP for sports-related use, sports club. And but there has been historically there's been a tennis club there for a very long time.
I thought that was being redone for the employees. Isn't that part of the whole system that's being redone for the employees?
You're exactly right.
That we're taking a beating on a $20 million capital expenditure for employees. Isn't the tennis club part of that?
What we were able to do is previously there have been two full-size tennis courts there. What we were able to do is consolidate down to one so that we're able to go forward with both.
Not sure I understand.
We have a smaller area now that's dedicated to tennis, and it'll be a single court rather than two courts, and that's allowed us to reduce the area for tennis down to a size that allows us to proceed with the relocation of the employees that you're referring to.
Jeffrey, are you going to grade these examinations? Because if every bidder for every lease that comes up in Grand Central, you're going to have a lot of grades to give out. You got to do computations A through J, and you got to get them all right, because if you add wrong or do something, then you really have a good litigation claim against you. Or do you get the benefit of graduate students or graders to help you do this? I mean, can you do all this?
Well, first of all, we do have a selection committee under our existing procedures. We've done that historically. It's not required by the law. It's not mandated we don't typically do it in other areas that the real estate department functions in, but in recognition of the fact that Grand Central functions as an integrated shopping facility with a lot of these sort of soft considerations, we've always had a selection committee. In the past, that selection committee consisted of the director of Grand Central Development and representatives of Jones Lang LaSalle and Williams Jackson Ewing. Those consultants are now going to be just that, consultants who provide a technical report that members of the evaluation committee will be able to rely on.
The consultants grade the papers, or you do it?
Sorry? No, they provide guidance, an analysis of the bids with respect to these various criteria. The members of the sorry?
All that stuff, they give a grade.
They will do the
divide by 70 and 30 and all that.
No, they do the present value calculations. I do have a sense of humor about this, so let me get through my answer.
Just one note is doing it.
Well, we worked on that. The consultants are going to provide the present value calculations of the proposed guaranteed rent, the present value calculations of the proposed percentage rent. They're going to give their own assessment of any concerns they have with respect to the likelihood of that rent being received, and they're also going to provide their own recommendations with respect to their professional assessment of whether one tenant can be expected to have a especially strong impact on the marketing of the facility to other tenants. But at the end of the day, it's the job of the individual members of the committee to assign their own adjustment factors, as they're called, and using that input. In effect, implicitly, they do that now.
Does his own grading of this?
Yes, that's correct. And in effect, they've always done that. I mean, that's not really a change.
Do they have the mathematical skills to do this? It's not so easy.
I don't think it's calculus. It's really it's a matter of the adjustment factor with respect to the base rent is one that is designed to discount for concerns about the creditworthiness or viability of the business plan. And fundamentally, a score of 1 is a score that suggests that there's no concern about the ability of the tenant to pay.
So, my suggestion is look for the math majors. Stay away from the engineers. They never get it right.
I just want to ask one more question about this tennis facility. Is it open to the public, and can the employees use it?
If you have the money to pay, it's open to the
So it's cost prohibitive.
It will be a membership club, and I believe there's an ability to play on a single play basis. Dave, do you have any more? Or Nancy,
Yeah,
any more information?
the club is going to be operated by an operator who has 2 other clubs in Manhattan, and they have various programs. They have youth programs, adult programs, and then you can pay per hour. And the pay per hour will be open to the public, again, at a rate yet to be determined.
I just have one more question. So this bakery that is about to go into litigation.
Well, it remains to be seen.
Okay.
We're re-RFPing that space.
Okay.
The judge determined that the lawsuit was premature and dismissed.
Well, it says here that the judge said it was premature and it's more or less wait and let's see what happens and then bring your suit back
that's
to me.
correct.
Okay.
That works.
So let me ask a question just so that I'm clear. What are you going to do with this space now? Are you going to leave it in limbo in case something turns not in your direction or in the board's direction, MTA's direction, and these people actually end up being in their rights to have this space? Is there another space equal in size and everything else that, God forbid, well, not God forbid, but if it's lost, they lose. The judge says, you know what? They have the right to have it. You did something wrong here. All right? What do you have to compensate them with that the other tenant that you bring in is not going to be bringing a lawsuit also? What do you have? What's your game plan here?
We intend to issue a new RFP that we think will very clearly state what the rules of engagement are. Let me be very clear about something. We have, under the old RFP, under all our procedures and standards, we have always reserved a right to reject any and all bids. That's standard operating procedure. We did that in this case because, frankly, we thought we might be leaving some money on the table. We didn't want to do that. We're going to go out, and Hot and Crusty is more than encouraged. We very much hope they will respond. We'll see how they do, and that space will then be filled based on the merits and based on the action of this committee and the full board, which pursuant to procedures that are in place for the benefit of the MTA, not for the benefit of any particular tenant. Yeah, we have month-to-month arrangements there. Yeah.
Cool.
Issue of the tennis club, is this going to be advertised to the public that it's there? I mean, nobody knows it's there right now.
Well, nobody knows it's there now because it's been closed for some while.
Even when it was
previously,
the last one.
Previously, I was certainly aware that it was there, and it's been there, I think, since the 80s or something, or the 70s. And actually, frankly, quite a lot of public sentiment was expressed to the effect that it would be a terrible shame to discontinue tennis use in Grand Central. Yeah,
Okay, I won't call them rent guidelines. I'll call them.
Leasing guidelines.
That takes it.
By the way, just one point of clarification. These are guidelines for our leases, for our long-term non-cancelable leases. We will continue to bring you proposed licenses for interim uses for kiosks and so on, and those will be brought to you pursuant to other procedures that you guys have put in place.
Okay, so I'd like to vote on. Oh, sorry, Norman.
Can you give me a listing of everybody that makes that decision on your board, who gets these places?
I can tell you very simply. It's the director of Grand Central.
I don't want titles. I want to identify the person.
That's fine. I'll be glad to do that.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, you gotta laugh. Okay. So not rent guidelines, the guidelines for the selection of tenants and leases at Grand Central Terminal. I move that. Does anyone want to second it? Okay. All in favor? Aye. There are also, yeah, we're doing that now. Okay. So now we're going to vote on buying property for the dogs, for the police department. We have to vote on the tennis, and this is an interesting committee here.
This time, I think we have to take these one at a time. These are some doozies this time.
Okay.
Bring it on.
Well, the first one's
And
very
you know,
straight.
I love contractors, and I love employees. But if you want to talk the first one, well, why do our employees need parking spaces at $30 apiece for 82 games a year? Why don't they take the train? All of us on this side of the table, I know, I've seen there, and we all take the train.
I do.
These are.
That's why we give them free passes.
These are. I'm sorry.
Free parking pass.
No, free
Oh,
train
free
passes.
train passes.
Well, these are game day employees who are working at a state. They only work at this station on days when there are home games, when parking becomes.
So why wouldn't they take public
sort of
transport?
hellish. Well, and because they live all over the place, so they're work on a night game. They're working late at night. They don't necessarily live in the city. If they live in Long Island, it's not very easy for them to get there.
That's why we have 476 stations throughout the system. They can park there, take the train.
And all-night service.
All-night service, that's right.
Hey, if you don't want to vote on it, don't vote on it.
I don't know about this one, except maybe Norman will give me some guidelines here.
Listen, man, they can get on the train.
Okay.
That's what it's about.
That one,
Okay.
you're not getting a vote from me.
Okay.
Get on
So,
the train.
Get on the train.
well, let's see.
We took our train
Let's,
passes.
yeah. Okay, so hey, this isn't a union issue, right, Norman?
No, not at all.
This is like tit for tat. Don't go.
I meant that, Norman.
I think she meant the other Norman, and, you know, I agree. I mean, I want my people taking mass transit as much as possible at all times. However, I do have, you know, with the construction of the lines, depending on where you're at, it can be a substantial burden for somebody coming from the Connecticut side, or, you know, depending on where you have to run from to get there. And, you know, it's not part of their regular assignment. You had a regular assignment there every day. You're giving them a pass. I think it's a little more understandable. You know, if you want, go ahead.
What about the employees that are there regularly?
There are no employees there
There's
regularly.
nobody there
It's
on a regular basis.
it's just
No-
game days
Right.
when there's a mezzanine, and so all the fans come into the mezzanine. They do, you know, they sort of work. They do. They do. But right, but they don't need ticket agents and so forth during non-game days. Ridership is so much lower. So you know, it's 81, 90 times a year that they need to park. They'll be.
Going on there?
It's a nice neighborhood.
Well, now it is. So, okay, do you, so we're going to vote on these individually. My gosh, real estate, you're like the meeting today. Is anyone going to vote for this before we go through the exercise? Okay.
$30 the actual is that's the rate they charge everyone?
Yes, that's the rate to the public.
Okay.
My assumption is just by reading this, you couldn't get any lower because of the bondholders.
Because of the.
Yeah, that was the rate that they offered us the same rate that everybody else pays. They offered us preferred spaces so people didn't have to walk after the game. You know, there are no more customers when they leave. It's dark.
Okay,
It's,
well, we're
you know.
not going to vote. What? Pardon me? Okay, so would you let them know the board wouldn't vote on this? You with me, Jeff?
Yep.
Okay. The next is to purchase property for 71 acres for guard dogs, or what,
I second.
yeah, because I've heard from the police department over the years how that's one of the best ways of preventing.
We're in favor of spending more than $1 million for 71 acres at Stormville to train dogs?
You have no idea. That's not even enough space for them.
Okay.
Okay.
I move it.
I trust
Oh,
Norman the
my
last time. I'll
God.
trust him this time.
I move it. All in favor? Okay, the dogs won, the parking didn't. Next. Okay, God, I've got so many quotables for the paper tomorrow. It's unbelievable.
71 acres.
They're going to
Are
have
you
a
sure
field
of
day.
that?
The next one is, darn, I thought it was the tennis.
This is.
I don't even know what this one is.
This is.
Oh,
to-
this is very
yeah,
straightforward.
to get federal money for this by Penn.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And then the tennis, the Yorkville Tennis Club. I personally, I move it. I'm nostalgic, and if it's been around since the 70s, let's keep it going. Anyone second it? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
So do we need to do we need, what are you pushing? Okay, so for the record, Commissioner Kay says no. He doesn't want parking, and he doesn't want tennis.
But he loves the dogs.
But he loves the dog. He's an animal lover, as am I, so that's good. Okay. Yes, the one before that, yes, everybody voted on that.
Yeah, we did that.
Okay. I would like to move to adjourn the meeting.
You have Long Island Railroad.
You have Long Island
items, too.
Railroad still there.
Not so fast.
MTA Long Island Railroad. Oh, what is there?
They're on page one if you.
Yeah, I see it. Okay, there's one Long Island Railroad lease. I move it.
Second.
All in favor? Can I get some ayes? All in favor on the Long Island Railroad lease? Okay. I move to adjourn. Oh, Norman?
Let me ask a question. And
Gotta beautify my-
just going back to the parking on Metro North at Yankee Stadium, if they come back to us and they have a decal in the window that is pasted to the window as opposed to allowing someone else to use their parking spot with just a $30 you park there, whatever, then, you know.
No, let me
They have
be
that.
very clear. This is only on an actual use basis, and it has to be the actual employee, and it's only when they actually use the space.
Well, if there's a
we're not paying $30 a
right,
space to
if
hold
there's
them or to
if there's
transfer them or anything.
if there is a decal in the window that's attached to the windshield of the car, and it makes it more secure, then that's something that I definitely take a look at. But just to say you got it, and then everybody just passes around, bring it back around, and
Okay.
fix it up, make it more
Okay.
official, if you will.
I'm sure Metro North will be glad to do that. It's a good idea.
Okay.
Make it less worser.
Okay. Sorry.
There's a right-of-way beautification item.
Yeah, I think I need a sheet for Long Island, for real estate in the future. Okay. The second Long Island lease, I move it.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, so now we're moving to adjourn the meeting. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay.